So I'm really looking forward to sharing this lesson with you today, because if you are looking to hit drivers straight, strike your irons or your fairway woods better, this is the place to start. Once my students understand the concept I'm going to share with you today, they get that aha moment. That's why I struggle slicing it, and we can change it in an instant. That's why I struggle to strike the ball cleanly off the ground. Right, now I get it. This, for me, is one of the most important lessons you can learn, and I'm really, really excited to share it with you. But before I do, look, if you're new to the channel, it's one of the first lessons of mine, please consider subscribing. I release videos just like this one every single week to try and help you improve your game. Plus, you never have to remember a thing. I'll always put a free download or practice guide in the description box below. So as you can see, I've drawn some lines on the ground here, and I give this to my scratch golfers right through to my beginner golfers, and it helps them immensely, every single one of them. So let's start with, in a sense, the outside line here and then the inside line. So a golf swing is not a straight back and straight through motion. We swing the golf club, look, on an arc, or I like to call a circle, yeah? Now, what this line here and this line represent is, this one is where your club path is going to go. So when we swing back, your club is going to travel on an arc back around the body, back around and on the way through. But so is your hands. So your hands, look, are also working, look, inwards on the arc too, and they keep working inwards behind you. When they come down, they work back down, look, out towards the golf ball, and then they gradually work inwards towards the body. But I don't see this with a lot of golfers. If you slice, what tends to happen is this. A lot of golfers kind of pick the club straight up. They don't work it on an arc. Then they drop it inside, or they swing in here, and then they move their hands outwards first and then across the ball. What they don't do is follow this simple path, look, of the hands working inwards, club working inwards here, back inwards, look, back inwards, but out towards the golf ball, and then look, we don't go out here, we come back in, and then look back around. So my students, first of all, use this simple visual to really, really help them get there. First of all, the simplicity of the circle before we work on striking it. So I get themselves generally to set up. Okay, we'll worry about ball position and all that kind of stuff in a second. And I get them to hit shots where they visualize the hands, the club, all working inwards on an arc. Now, a lot of people often get one doing the work, so they might get the head working inwards, but the hands have stayed outwards, right? That won't work. That's going to cause major problems and loops. What we want to have, look, is the hands working on an arc with the golf club, and that keeps everything on line, back here, back through, and then how do we stop all this kind of horrible flickiness on the way through? Well, same thing. Look at this here. Now watch this. My hands are going to work inwards on this arc. Look at how stable that is through here. Beautiful through impact, and that is how we create a very, very simple starting position to your golf swing. So you've got step one, you've got the hands working in, you've got the club working in, you've got everything working on a beautiful arc. There's just two more steps to go. Now the second step is huge for striking it consistently. So you've now got a consistent motion to some degree, but we're not consistently striking the ball. Now, any golf swing has a center, a maximum radius to their circle, and that radius of that circle is directly here. It's right on line with your lead shoulder, where the lead arm and the club, they line up. This is the center of your golf swing. The center of your golf swing isn't here. It's not over here. It is right there. Now, your ability to return this club consistently back to there will determine how good a player you become. Now, think about it. How do we do that? If we start to move around a lot, even if we've got the hands working in, club working in, is that going to make life easy? No. In fact, I had a recent student, in fact, just yesterday, John came and see me. He had a lot of movement around, and occasionally would time it and come back and he'd strike it, but other times he wouldn't. And that led to his inconsistency. What I needed to teach him was to understand that there's a center to your golf swing, and your ability, in a sense, to rotate around and then return the torso back to where it came from will determine how consistent a player you become. So I want you to picture this. A dot in the middle of your kind of chest here, and then a dot just in the middle of your pelvis. At the start of your swing, you want them kind of completely stacked on top of one another, right? And think about it this way. How should your shoulders and body move in order to kind of keep them on top of one another? Well, look at this. If I was to, in a sense, lunge off the golf ball, you've just seen that's not going to help. So notice this. I'm going to move in such a way where I'm working on an axis. My lead shoulder's working down, my trail shoulder's working up, and I'm pivoting, look. My hands are working in, club's working in. Can you see now? I'm able to stay on the golf ball. What I'm not doing is lunging off it, right? So just picture this. This is this line here. Know there's a center to your circle, and your ability, look, to look after that center is hugely, hugely important. With many of my students, what I'll do is I'll put a club just on their trail ear here, just to show them they can move a little bit, but I don't want them moving excessively. If they just imagine staying ahead of this shaft, which I often put on their ear, they're able to pivot, look, with their torso, keep that in the same spot each time, and then they're able to come back, look into impact, where this is almost remaining exactly where it started with, and it's going to give you the best opportunity to return that club back to where it came from. Now let's finish off with step number 3, which for me is probably the one position, the one line that I think ruins more golf swings than any other. So the lack of understanding of this is what screws up more golf swings than I can care to imagine. So it's really, really important. So what I'm going to show you here is this. This, as we said before, this is here is the center of your golf swing. This is where you're going to put your lead heel, right? Now, when you're striking a ball off the ground with an iron or a hybrid, or even a fairway wood, you want to strike the ball, then the ground, right? So we've just said this is the point where the club gets to its maximum radius in the swing. So this here, this point, is where the club strikes the ground. Now we don't want to have a golf ball there off the ground. We want to make sure we strike the ball first. We don't want any ground contact. So we push the ball around about a club width back from our lead heel. So that means we're going to strike the ball, then the ground here. But what do you notice? Well, when you do that, right, when you move that ball back, if we do a proper golf swing here where the club's working in, the hands are working in, where is the club actually striking the golf ball? Where is it heading? Can you see how it's heading, look? To the right of target. Now this is it screws people's minds. This is what I would say would ruin more golf swings. People don't realize this. So what they do is and that's what should happen, by the way. The club should actually head to the right. But what people do is artificially, they start to try to correct it by coming over the top. Or they bend their handle back to square this club face up. Thus, again, catching the ball a little bit fat. I want to show you now how you integrate this ball position and start to strike every single one of your clubs, hybrids, irons and fairwoods, much, much better. So what I thought would be great for you to really get and understand how to strike your irons, hybrids and driver would be for me to demonstrate a few things. So let's go through this. So my lead heel, look, is on the center of my circle line, the point where the club reaches its maximum radius of that circle. And as we've said, look, when you're playing balls on the ground, to guarantee strike, we move the ball back in our stance, but that has an impact. So I've moved that ball, look, one club width back in my stance. Now, we said, because we've moved the club back, if we now create a beautiful circle back and come through, I'm going to catch that ball as the club is heading where? To the right of target. I need to be ready for that, so we should expect the ball to be heading over there before it eventually arrives on target after the golf ball. Right? Really, really important. So let me hit a couple of shots for you and show you this in action, and then we can continue having this discussion. So I'll get myself set. Move it slightly away from there. Let's have a look at this. So let's have a look at this one in action. So you look at this here. What do you see here? Almost a perfect circle in my swing. It should be 0, but it's almost perfect. That ball, look, has gone out to the right-hand side. Now, what you see when people start seeing that ball go out to the right-hand side, they go, oh my God, it's gone right. So what they start to do is start to fix it by either coming over the top, not intentionally, they go, oh, I don't want it to go over there. So they start to do this. They start to change their swing, not realizing that that's the place the ball should start. What you should do instead isn't come over the top to try and fix it. You shouldn't, which is the worst even still. I see, I found John in the session yesterday was doing this. He's trying to hit the ball straight by doing this, but if you do this with no handle lean, you don't strike it. So yes, you might hit it straight, but now you're fatting it, and it's going straight, but it's not well struck, right? What you do to get that ball heading in the right direction is realize that the ball should curve slightly. So look at this. All I do when I'm setting up here is I get my handle there and I make sure I close the face a little smidge. How much? Just use the ball flight. I could give you precise amounts, but I think this is something you learn to feel. So close the face a little bit, then grip it. Now I know that the club is in my hands. And when I set up to this now, okay, I know that I am set up in a beautiful position to hit a draw that sets off to the right of target and comes back. Now, if it doesn't do that, I know it's nothing to do with my setup. It's something that I've done in my golf swing that I need to look. Maybe I've moved off the golf ball, so I can check that. But at setup, I know now that I've got a perfect setup with a handle opposite my lead thigh. The club face is close to the path here, and I should see a ball that sets off now to the right of target. If I do this beautiful circle, hands in, club in, back in round, and then look whoosh, through here, we should see that beautiful fly that sets off right and curves back to the left. Have a look at this. So almost, look at that, little draw, sets a little bit off to the right hand side. Club path, look, a positive number, but it's slightly out to right. Face to path's closed, and that ball's drifting a little bit right to left. This is the starting point. Be prepared. Don't change your swing to hit it straight. Realize the club should be heading, look, slightly out to the right hand side of target here. And as long as you've closed that club face enough, you'll start to hit a perfect draw. So I want you to take an image of this, put it in your mind, imprint it in your mind. See these lines, the hands and the club work inwards on the way back, they work back out to the golf ball, and then when they've struck the ball, they're gradually working back around here on an arc. The other thing for striking, we don't just work the club on an arc, we also look after the center of this arc, right? The center is, again, this lead shoulder. How do we look after it? Well, we have a dot here and a dot here. We pivot around that dot here. Look at this, I'm pivoting around. Imagine somebody's got something just resting across your trail here. I'm not banging into it, I'm gonna pivot around it here, right? Now, on the way through, yes, there'll be a bunt across here. So suddenly now, this here gets ahead of this. But this is important. This does not move. There we go. So we're in position now. Here, look, we're pivoting around, and then we'll look back where we came from. This is in the same place. Super, super important. And finally, remember, the club is going to feel like it's heading away from you here. This is important. Why? Well, one is helping strike it, but I want you to picture this. It's also for power. Imagine a speedboat taking a skier. Well, when we work on an arc here, well, when we come around here, the speedboat comes around and is going to sling that skier outwards with pace. This is why we have this in the first place. So it's not just for ball striking here, but it's also going to really help us generate some serious power. Very different to what most people are doing, going straight back and straight through. So imprint this in your mind. I'm going to create another video for hybrids and driver and show you the differences here. And maybe go into this in more detail. If you've got any questions whatsoever, leave them in the comments box below. And even better still, head over to dannymaude.com. Come and be a subscriber over there, where I'll go into this and into more detail too. But until next week, have a wonderful golfing week. Check out this video that I did on the driver. It'll be super, super helpful.